This is an interesting part of the day for me and for everybody, for all of you, I hope, because our keynote speakers are, exceptional people. And that's what they do for a living, is they speak. And then the question comes, yeah, but how do I do it in my real world? Like, what really goes on in that corporate boardroom, and what really goes on in those offices of leadership? And so you're about now to sit in and observe and eavesdrop on a conversation between 3 women executives. My role will be to hold space, and I will ask some questions, but then just watch them engage with each other and see the conversation that goes on. And so it is my honor to introduce to you our executive panel, and you're going to see there's shots come up on the screen here in just a couple of seconds so that you know who it is that you're listening to. And so I'm just absolutely thrilled that from Osler we have Mary Buttery, who is a KC and a partner of disputes. We have Nola Martin, who's with Ocean Brands, the Vice President of Marketing and Corporate Development. And we have Kristin Wilkes, who is the Vice President for British Columbia with Longview. So if they work for your organization, let's give them some praise here. Welcome them on board. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Did you make it? Yeah. And then you've got to do the gymnastics portion of the show as well, the mount and the dismount, and it's always a challenge. But thank you so much for taking some time and being with us. And Mary, can I start with you first of all, and just share with us a little bit about who you are and what brought you to the stage today?
Hi, everyone. Big crowd. My name is Mary Buttery. I'm a partner in the Osler Disputes Group here in Vancouver. I started my career in Toronto. I graduated from law school in 1991, so probably some of you weren't even born yet. And I do commercial litigation, essentially of every description, as well as commercial restructuring. And along the way, I've raised, I think successfully, 3 kids. I have a couple dogs, a couple horses, and a couple cats, so busy life.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate you being here. Nola.
I'm Nola Martin, and it's an amazing crowd today, and we've had some really great speakers. I started my career in the consumer packaged goods industry, which is food, and I started in Toronto about 30 years ago. I graduated the same year you did, so we speak the same language. And from there, I've had a number of different roles. Today, I work for Ocean Brands. I've been there for 8 years, and I'm also the COO, and I also lead marketing for that company for a small business in the U.S.
Wow, so COO and marketing together.
Yeah.
Frenemies.
Yeah, okay.
It lives together in here, which is really good. But certainly love a lot of challenges, and food is something that we can all relate to, so it's really easy to market.
There we go. Beautiful. Thanks so much, Kristin.
Awesome. My name is Kristin Wilkes. Bill, we're friends now, so it's Chris. I am a change agent, which is corporate speak for a pain in the ass. I am a mom of a 16-year-old boy, and I am going through perimenopause, so I am trying to keep my notes in my head.
Yes. Yes.
And on the corporate side, I'm the Vice President of BC for Longview Systems. I'm responsible to lead all of our business here, and we're a tech firm. So I'm also sick of hearing about AI.
There we go. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, you got a reaction there, and I can't just let it go, because not all women will choose to have children. Not all women will be able to have children, but all females will go through menopause in some way, shape, or form. Any thoughts or comments, not to put anybody on the spot, but we have parental leave now. But how do we hold space for those brain fog moments, for those hot sweat? I remember one of my colleagues, she had a beautiful silk napkin that she used, but wow, you're ready, Mary, go.
I'm ready because if anyone has ever sat in court, it's quite formal. And I have been having a huge hot flash with a big suit on, or occasionally even a robe, a court robe if I'm in the Court of Appeal. And I've actually thought we need to be able to normalize that if a woman takes off her suit jacket in court, nobody raises an eyebrow. I have thought about raising it, but then I thought I might be known as Mary Menopause. now I probably will be known as that.
That one's going to stick,
but,
for sure.
I do think we need to normalize things like that because, as you said, we're all going through it or have gone through it.
Yeah, I think for me, being maybe a little younger than my panelists, I've just started this, and Bill and I were talking backstage, and I can't remember the quote, so I apologize to who said it, but they were talking about if men went through menopause, this would have been solved 40 years ago. So I am very grateful that this is now a topic that we're talking about, so thank you, Bill.
I would love to strap every executive man on with the muscle contraction things during a meeting so that they can feel what that's like. And yeah, so that we can relate a little bit. hopefully comprehend, although we would never understand, but at least we'd be able to comprehend. So thank you for taking that little detour from the questions that I came prepared for, but I think it's beautiful that we can begin to end the stigma and have these normalized conversations around just bodily functions, and even a story you told about a man that had to provide. Are you comfortable to share that story, Chris?
So the folks who work at Longview, you can't repeat this.
Oh, okay.
They're here.
Cone of silence.
I'm the only female vice president at Longview. We have amazing women at levels above and below me, but at my level, I'm the only one. And we all lead our different branches. And when I joined, they are all men. I was like, we should put free menstrual products in the bathrooms as someone who's needed this in the past. And yet, most of the men had women working in their offices, and off those women went and bought menstrual products. And one of my peers, who's also a mentor of mine, he works in our Houston branch, he told me this after, but he's like, I don't have a woman in corporate services, and also I know Chris will be really mad at me if I go ask a woman to buy. So he's like, I went to the Walmart aisle and I bought pads and tampons, and my wife was like, for 40 years you've been telling me you don't know where they are. You were lying. Anyway, so our Houston branch now has free menstrual products, and Jeff, if you ever see this, I am so sorry.
Oh, well, I'm having a hot flash now, and I know it's not for that reason, but at any rate, it kind of leads beautifully into our very first question. And so, Nola, I'm going to start with you on this one. What unique challenges have you faced as a woman in leadership, and how did you overcome them?
So in one of my jobs, I had risen to be the most senior female salesperson in the organization. And with that came participation in our sales leadership team, which was me and 11 guys. And there was some upside to this. There was never a lineup for the bathroom. But the downside was that I was constantly asked for what time the meeting started, where the meeting was, where were the meeting notes. And it was a real challenge for me. The other thing that it really made me realize was that men speak to each other very differently than you do in a group of men and women. And in one way, it was really helpful to actually hear them talk to each other, because then I could get some cues for how I could be a more effective communicator with this group of men. And on the point of the agenda and the timing of the meeting, because I was more senior than most of them, I made them do it.
Well done. Well done. Mary, I'm going to come to you for this next one. What guidance would you offer women transitioning into leadership roles?
I think we've already touched on this a little bit this morning, in that all of us have a unique perspective to bring, and we shouldn't underestimate just the fact that maybe our route to being a leader or becoming senior isn't linear. For me, I had 3 kids. It will happen in its own time, but don't underestimate the role or your ability to take on the role. And someone mentioned this morning, and I have my own anecdote. Apparently, when people post a job, 60%, and I may be making the number up, but you get the gist. 60% of the men who apply for the job are underqualified, and 60% of the women who apply for the job are overqualified. So, that does ring true. I think most women would second guess applying for a leadership role. So I would say you are unique, you can do it, and if you even feel a little inkling like you might be ready to do it, step into it.
Nola, your thoughts on that question as well?
Yeah, it was interesting. As I looked at this question, I actually thought about it a little differently. And, someone spoke about it this morning. We're all leaders. And so for me, I try not to confuse having a leadership role or a role more senior in an organization with being a leader. And what I would say to people is, as they go through, it's not called a journey for no reason. There are going to be good days, and there are going to be bad days. And some days you're going to be proud of what you've done, and some days you're going to wish you had a do-over. And what I would say for anyone in a leadership role is embrace this. And one of the most important lessons I'd ever had as I became a leader is somebody apologized to me once for maybe not having the best day. They had done something that I wasn't that impacted by it, but they obviously went away and felt bad about it. And I just felt the power of that apology. And I know for me, when I have one of those bad days and I think I've hurt someone's feeling or I haven't shown up as my best person, I seek them out and I go apologize, because it helps me close that chapter off, and it also helps them and maintain that relationship. Because most of us today, we just let it go. And we're like, oh, move on, they just had a bad day. But the power of apology and understanding that you didn't have a great day is part of that leadership journey.
Wow. It's okay to not be okay. We all have bad days. So, okay, fabulous. Thank you. Thank you for that. Chris, I'm going to come to you next with this question. Mentorship and sponsorship can play a significant role in career growth. What role have they played in your journey, and how do you build those relationships?
Yeah, definitely an important role. I would say with mentorship, it's really important to be direct. Find the courage, Bill, would you do me the honor of being my mentor? And most people are really excited. Even if they don't have the time, what I found is they'll be like, oh, I can't take someone else on right now, but you know who would be a great mentor for you? Susie. And off they go. I also would say peers can be great mentors. I told you the story about Jeff, who's forever going to be known as Jeff, the guy who bought menstrual products, but he's also my mentor. A peer can understand what you're going through, and it takes a lot of trust and respect, but it can be really impactful. A short story, when I was in grade 10, which was just a few short years ago, I took a computer science course it was like intro to whatever. There were not many girls. And my grade 10 teacher pulled me aside and said, hey, you have a knack for this. I'll skip all the things, but he was like, you should go into this. And so I did. And I'm literally sitting on this stage because he took 10 minutes to reach out to a girl who was not having a very good time. And that to me was sponsorship of sorts. He saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, gave me a little nudge. And so, lean into those little nudges along the way and intentionally seek out mentors.
Wow, that's yes. I think it's the late, great Stephen Covey defined leadership as communicating to people their worth and potential so clearly they come to see it in themselves. And so that's the gift that you sort of received, is that definition of leadership. Mary, you were comfortable talking a little bit about mentorship as well.
So I think that probably most of us in the room have had a mentor or been a mentor. I would encourage people to have more than one mentor because you may have mentors for different reasons, but one of the things, again, discussed this morning, so obviously it's resonating with me, you want to have a mentor who's going to give you a gut check and who may challenge some views. So you may say, this is terrible, this happened, or I can't believe I was overlooked for this. And if someone is really mentoring you, they will not always agree with you. They may say, you know what, maybe it wasn't the right role for you, or maybe you needed to do this. And so I would really encourage you in many ways to have a mentor who may not share your views and may actually agitate you a little bit, because I think it would make you have a bit more self-reflection. With probably women don't need as much as men, no offense, Bill, but just to have a little bit more self-reflection and grow from it.
Thank you. Chris.
Just to build on that thought you sparked for me there, Mary, I'm fortunate to be part of kind of an executive coaching group, but you can apply this even if you aren't. We're a group of about 8 or 9, and we're meant to think of each other as our personal board of directors, right? And the board challenges an organization and pushes it. And so maybe think of your collection of mentors. Find your personal board of directors. That was a really powerful concept for me.
Wow. Brilliant. Thank you. Now, in the question, we were talking about both mentorship and sponsorship, and I'd love to know your perspectives around the sponsorship side of things. The mentor, as you said, Chris, like ask somebody to be your mentor. I've got a number of mentees that didn't ask me to be their mentor. We just have regular phone calls and regular Zoom calls, and we're good with that. But sponsorship is when you don't know they're talking about you in the boardroom or in that meeting room. Any thoughts about how to gain a sponsor or how to be a sponsor for other young people looking to grow in their careers? Anybody interested in? There we go.
I'll take this one since they both looked at me. No pressure. I think sponsorship is when you talk about people when they're not in the room, but you talk about them for good, right? It might be myself. I have an amazing team. When opportunities come up, I'll be like, hey, Antonia would be amazing at that. She's ready for this challenge. We should put her on that. And I haven't told her. And then I get the excitement of going to her and being like, guess what I volunteered you for? But those are the doors that open. So I think of it as that send the elevator back down. But to me, mentorship is, as you described with that personal board of directors. Sponsorship is you're advocating for someone and bringing awareness to someone who's maybe been overlooked or just works hard but doesn't get the limelight. So sponsorship is really that, advocacy and allyship when they're not in the room.
And I would encourage everybody to sponsor at least one person at any given time. I think if every woman in this room sponsored another woman in their organization, think about how we would uplift everybody. I mean, it sounds a little bit Pollyanna-ish. I don't mean it to be that way. But if we all supported each other just to say, you know, someone would be great in that role, or I think you would be really great, I recommended you for that, it would go a long way to helping women be in the boardroom and in senior leadership roles.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, I'm going to ask all of you this, but Nola, I'd love to come to you first, if we could, on this one. What advice would you give to women about advocating for themselves, whether it's negotiating, asking for promotion, or seeking a new opportunity?
I love this question because I think these are some of the uncomfortable conversations we all have to have, women and men, as they go through their career. And, you know, I think women shy away from it a little bit more. We hope that the limelight will hit us eventually, that someone will see our worth. And what I would say is, in my experiences of going to have that conversation with a boss that says, you know, I'd like more money, I'd like that promotion, I'd like these things. How I've done it is I've tried to sit in their seat. And before I go talk to them, I get really clear on what I'm hoping to get. The other thing that I do is I also try to make it easy for someone to say yes to what I'm asking for. And then I go in, I make the time with them, I make sure they're ready to hear me, and then I get quiet. We tend to talk through everything, and leaving that space for quiet so that the person that you're giving the message to can receive it, and then even take it away and think about it, has been really successful for me. And I would encourage everyone to do it. Step into that uncomfortable conversation because you're worth it. And you do need to advocate for yourself. So, you know, it's not great, but you do find, too, that when you do it and it lands well, you are successful, and the next one becomes easier.
Now, you mentioned something in there about making it easy for them to say yes. Mm-hmm. Can you give us a little example of how we do that?
I can give you a really basic one.
Please.
So I was looking for, I was unhappy with my compensation, and I needed to go talk to the head of HR. For some more money. And so I knew I wanted to make somewhere between $3,000 to $10,000 more. And as I thought about it and I did my research, I went 5 would be an easy number. So I just got out there and I said, look, this is the research that I've done, and I would like $5,000 more. And I got my $5,000.
Yeah. Yes.
It was within their salary band, so I knew it would be, you know, it wouldn't have to go to the president and, you know, the board or whatever. Like it was easy for them to kind of say, yeah, that makes sense.
I want to take a quick audience survey. Can we engage them?
Sure.
Please clap if you're a woman and you've ever asked for a raise. Actually, love that. And when those have, if you didn't clap, talk to the person who clapped. Yeah, absolutely. Chris, what about for you?
Remind me of the question, Bill.
Remind you of the question, absolutely.
Thank
What
you.
advice would you give a woman about advocating for themselves, whether it's negotiating, asking for a promotion, or seeking new opportunities?
In the wise words of our host this morning, when I hear no, I hear not yet.
Oh.
So I would say be prepared for pushback. You know, all the things you said, be confident, do your research. You've earned the right to be there, know your worth. We all have imposter syndrome. I have little Chris on my shoulder who I sometimes have to squash, right? But know your worth. But I would say when you hear no, think of it as not yet. You know, you say you have to communicate 7 times for someone to hear you. Back to that change agent pain in the ass, I want to hear no 7 times before I give up, and I find most times I only get to like 4, so that's a win.
7 times, that's courageous.
It is. It does take a lot of courage. Like, it's easy for me to sit up here and be like, go do this, it's totally fine. Like, you don't see the Chris who's like, oh my God, you know? But lean into that discomfort, because once you do it once, it gets easy.
And now let's go to the lawyer to find out, how would you advocate and negotiate and all those good things, lawyer?
Oh, I don't negotiate. So one of the things that's unique, not actually probably isn't unique to law, but is endemic in law, is the fact that we started as students, and then we're baby lawyers, and then we're really defined by where we are in our career progression, probably more than most places, maybe accounting firms the same. But I think in any business, if you start out in a junior role and you're moving up in the ranks, it is one of the most important things to do is to make sure that your peers and your bosses recognize you for how senior you are becoming. And so to feed on what Chris said, so, you may not go right in and say, I want to be a partner or I want an X amount more money, but you might want to say, remind your bosses and your peers, gee, I'm not a baby lawyer anymore, I'm a mid-year lawyer, or, I really have goals. Announce your goals to the firm. I want to make partner, I want to be a senior associate. And so that when you do go in for your ask, you've already laid the groundwork and you've made it easier to say yes. So.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm going to come to you with another question right away, Mary. So hold on. What role has networking played in your advancement, and how can leaders build and leverage strong networks?
This is one of my favorite topics, not just because I'm very social, but if anyone knows me at the firm, I really emphasize to our young baby lawyers, as I call them, but our young lawyers, men and women, to really get out there and network. It's hard. It's especially hard when you've just graduated from law school. And so, practice, go to cocktail parties, go to, events, running events or things like that. I recognize that it's not any easier for the person standing next to you at the cocktail party. But the best advice is from, I started my career in Toronto, and the chairman of the firm, of the law firm I was at, which is a national firm, not the one I'm at right now, he was so powerful and so impressive and quite terrifying. And he told us a story, which was my best client, which was a bank that happens to be here, so I won't say the name either. My cohort, who gives me all this amazing work, was originally, now this doesn't happen anymore because people get degrees and move on, but he said, my cohort was in the mailroom. So his advice to people, which I now give to my young lawyers, is you don't have to market to the vice presidents and the presidents when you're a first or second year lawyer. Market to your peers. Market to people you went to law school with. Maybe right now they're at a competitor firm, but the odds are a lot of them are going to go in-house. So market to people you know, market to your friends, and that's going to pay a reward as you move up the ranks. And especially as a young lawyer, you're not expected to have client development success. You're supposed to have client development skills, and that's what you can move up to as you get more senior. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for that. I mean, networking has evolved. Networking used to be, I need something from you, a job, whatever. And now networking is really, it seems about connecting people. And so who do I know that you need to know, and how can you make those connections? Just keep going, keep going. All right, Chris, I'm going to come back to you again, my friend. What do you believe makes a leader truly inspiring? And what qualities or skills are essential to lead with confidence today?
Yeah, we heard a lot this morning, which was great, but I really believe, being empathic, being authentic, truly understanding the people that you work with and members of your team, getting to know them. I loved, I forget in the moment which speaker it was, but she talked about understanding who's a morning person and who's a night owl and who's got a soccer game to go to, and having each other's back. Like, that to me is authentic and inspiring leadership. And I think too, it's we bring our whole self to work. And when I was leading a team through the pandemic, I lost one of my team members tragically and suddenly, and I had to tell the team over Zoom, which was just gross. But what I didn't know how to do this. They don't teach you this in leadership school, right? So I just showed up as my authentic self. I was sad. I bawled, and you do not look good when you bawl on Teams. It's not nice. But some of them cried with me, and they came up to me after, and they were like, the fact that you were comfortable enough to cry with us validated our own feelings. And I think that's just an example of if you show up authentic, people can feel that, and then they are inspired to follow you and to be authentic themselves.
Oh. Taking a moment for your colleague and for you in that. Yeah. It is interesting to demonstrate that courage. It is interesting to
it takes
be
a lot
that vulnerable.
Cry on Zoom. I'm not kidding. You can see yourself.
Yeah. And the older I get, the more emotional I get. So I'll breathe through this. And Nola, I'm going to come to you next with this question. How do you prioritize leadership development and create a culture of continuous learning?
Thank you. This is going to be a little bit sort of taking a bit of what your comments were just were. As I thought about this question, I thought it was kind of interesting because I think it's very personal. And as a leader of a couple of different teams, I think back to everyone in our organization is a leader, and if people express the desire to learn some more fundamental leadership skills, we have a great team at Oceans that just really believes in development, and so part of our process is we have an individual development plan. I hope many of you have one as well. And so leadership can be prioritized in that way from a learning experience, but I also find that my teams are in very different places in their lives. Some have kids that are in their teens. Some are just about to have children. Some have 2 kids. Some have no kids. And so the continuous learning part, I think, is very important, but I also feel like people are going to learn how they want to, where they want to. And for someone that's a new mom, her learning might not be sort of go to a course or listen to a podcast because they likely don't have time, or they might not have interest, and what interests me might not interest them. So I really make continuous learning just part of the job. Asking questions, if we talked about curiosity today, asking questions of curiosity. And if people pick up that thread, that's always great. So I make it a big priority, but it's not sort of an obligation.
Mm. Wonderful. Mary, thoughts on the same?
You won't be surprised to know that my law firm is pretty structured. We really focus on education and knowledge building. Mm-hmm. It starts from when someone's a summer student. They spend, I think there's a week or even an articling student that they will learn before they even start to be able to take on legal tasks. But what I don't mean this to be a plug for Osler, but it is. What I love about my firm is that it continues to provide education no matter what level you're at. And so when people make partner at our firm, they go to essentially new partner academy, because there's a whole bunch of things you learn as a partner that you never had to worry about as an associate. You have to learn about billing and client, different sort of client demands and things like that, the different processes that partners have. But what I really like is that when you come over as a lateral partner, you have to do the same thing. And so it encourages learning throughout your career, and not just when you're, as I've called them, a baby lawyer. You have to keep learning. So I agree with you. It's very individualized, and I certainly can tell you there's certain ones I don't go to because they drive me crazy. But for the most part, the opportunity is there, and it recognizes that we have to keep learning.
Wonderful. Chris, what about yours?
Yeah, I'm going to pick up the continuous improvement side, because I think these ladies have addressed the learning side well. I think it's you have to model it, that culture of curiosity, ask questions, and then find the humility to openly admit when you got it wrong, or, oh, hey, I didn't know that when I made that decision. I would do this now. Let's pivot. And I think when you can find that humility and openly change your mind, you send a signal to your team of like, it's okay. It's safe to say, hey, I learned something new. I'm going to do this differently now. And by modeling that, you model that continuous improvement kind of on a practical level.
Beautiful. Yeah, I refer to it as celebrating miss-takes. What's your next take? And what's your next take? How do we continually evolve, and how do we constantly improve? Nola, I'm going to come to you with this next one. How has your definition of success evolved? And what does it look like for you today?
Well, being a lady of a certain age, at a certain part in my career, I think my definition of success has moved from moving up a hierarchy in an organization. I had a sort of relatively linear definition of success. I wanted to be a sales rep, then a sales director, then a vice president, then, that's not in my cards anymore. I'm really happy with where I am in terms of a level. Right now, I'm really focused on refining, and I don't know how many times I ask myself, why didn't I know this when I was 35? But I didn't, and so I'm working on sort of building out those soft skills, and also thinking about how I can help others that are coming on after me. We talked about mentorship and sponsorship, and how can I give others that are coming up through the organization, or people that I know in the industry, or just around, how can I give them a leg up and help share some of the experiences that I've had?
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Leadership by example, authentic leadership. Beautiful. Chris, I'm going to come to you here with this one now. How do you balance high performance with the growing needs of wellness, flexibility, and work-life harmony, especially in high-pressure moments?
Yeah, love this question. Thank you, Bill. It's going to be different for every single person in this room. I think it was at an Art of Leadership for Women conference, and hopefully your memory's better than mine. I think it was Arlene Dickinson who stood up here and said, when we hear work-life balance, we hear like 50-50. And she said some version of that's not true. And I think about for myself, you know, when my son was like 1, 2, 3, the scales tipped a lot more towards home and leaning in towards being a mom while still balancing career and wife and friend and all the other things. And now my kid's 16 and doesn't even know if I'm home half the time. So the scales tipped a little more towards me and my career. So I think it's just recognizing that what works for me and what work-life balance is for me isn't going to be what it is for Nola. And that's okay, right? And then for me, it's just leaning into the little things. I love to hike and paddleboard, but I also really love a Thai massage. So sometimes I'll say to my husband, like, we should go for a Thai massage this weekend, and for whatever reason he'll say no, like, why would anyone say no? And I'll be like, okay, well, I'm going. So I think it's finding what your thing is that helps you be restorative, whether it's yoga, whether it's some crazy runners or weird people, but like, find your thing, you know?
Sign me up for paddleboarding and the massage thing, and the rest, yeah.
You're my people.
Yeah, I got it. So this is my last official question that I have for you here today. And so, Nola, why don't we begin with you?
Sure.
And what's one piece of advice you'd give your younger self or to the next generation of women leaders that are probably in our audience today?
I'm glad we got these questions in advance because we had some time to think about it. And I thought of many things, but the one thought that I think is most important for all of us to keep in mind is just be kind. We're all just trying to do our best. And that's, you know, as a kind leader, you get to tap into all the things we are innately as human beings.
Yeah. Somebody else that's graced this stage, Laura Gesner-Otting, really take a look at a piece that she does on her social media about being kind and the difference between being kind and being nice. And how, as a woman, being kind will really advance you to places that you want to get to, but being nice is something very different.
Most of the women that I've encountered over my career, and I hope it's changing, it wasn't that they were such mean girls, they were just hard. And I think, you know, I met a series of women in my sales roles that were just, they're tough. And I understand completely why they were tough, because you had to be to get where you were going. And I don't know if either one of you experienced that as well. But I think by remembering that your kindness, your gentleness, I think that might help sort of balance off that toughness that you might have to exhibit in order to, you know, realize your career goals and realize your leadership journey.
And Chris, for you again, what's one piece of advice you'd give your younger self or to the next generation of women leaders?
Yeah, building nicely off what Nola said, I've decided I have 1,000 best friends in the room, so I'm going to be a bit vulnerable. I had a really tough childhood. My father died by suicide when I was 4. I was bullied all through school. Computer science and a girl, like, it wasn't a good combo. It's better now, but not enough, so advocate for that. And so I moved out the moment I could, as soon as I turned 19. So I would go back and give my younger self a hug and say that it will be okay. And to all of you out there, I don't know Nola's story, I know a little bit, but you don't know other people's stories. So I would say be kind and have the grace to know that everyone is going through something, and also know that you have way more grit and resilience that you think you do. I mean, I would never, if you asked 18-year-old me if I would be sitting on the stage at the Art of Leadership for Women fangirling with Bill, I would have been like, no. And here I am. So I would just give her a hug and say it's going to be okay, and one day you won't have to eat Kraft dinner, for sure. Unless you want to, hell yes.
Because we want to eat Kraft dinner. We're Canadian.
By choice, yes.
We are Canadian.
It's Canadian, I found that out.
Kraft dinner, wow. And we are meant to be together because the first thing I say out loud every morning is, I love you, Billy.
Yeah. My first thing is like, I'm alive, today's a great day. And I don't share that with many people, so now I'm going to cry.
We're going to release some tension, yes. And Mary, what about you? What advice would you give your younger self?
I have to follow along the side, both of those, which were both amazing. I would just say, no matter what level you're at, recognize that you're adding value to whatever situation you're in. And I'm a big one for stories, so I'll tell one more. There was a lawyer when I was a first-year lawyer. She was a fifth-year lawyer. And I thought she was the smartest, most glamorous, all-knowing lawyer I'd ever met in my life. She was a fifth-year lawyer. And I had this sort of, my first of many epiphanies in my career was when I became a fifth-year lawyer, and I thought, she didn't know anything. But boy, when I was a first-year lawyer, I really thought she did. And so I would just be kind to yourself as well as to others, and recognize that no matter what level you're at in your career, you are absolutely adding value to the situation that you're in. And don't underestimate it.
So how did it feel to eavesdrop in on a conversation of three powerful, successful women? Yes. So Chris, Nola, Mary, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your courage to share your thoughts and your wisdom. And much success and happiness to all of you. There's our executive panel. Thank you so much. Cheers. Thank you.